So I had been asked to do the Rotary Minute today, but then I found out that you were gonna be doing it. But I looked through the magazine and I found, and I'm not gonna do a Rotary Minute, but I found the thing that David Byrne from Talking Heads had been involved with. It was really fascinating. It was about promoting positivity, and I thought that was really cool.
Well, you can do the minute next week.
Well, I just kind of did it, so.
Very good.
Rock star. Anyhow, it's my pleasure to introduce Janet. Janet Smith is a transcendental meditation person. Her husband Edwards is a well-known wood bowl turner. He's taught Sherry, he's taught people throughout the community. She and her husband Edwards moved here in 2011. And she has been teaching transcendental meditation since 1972, 70.
Teaching since 1980.
1980, but been part of the TM movement. Dave Erickson and myself have gone through and done the course, and it's a wonderful way to get mindfulness and get grounded. So that's the bio, and it's my pleasure to have you come up and give a spiel.
Thank you.
Does the mic not work?
No, I'm trying to figure out why it doesn't, but
But we should still hold it just because.
yeah. Yeah, so sorry about that. I got the owl working today.
It's turned on.
Well.
Slowly, different things. No, you're fine. You're gonna speak up. Sorry,
All right,
sorry, folks. I'm still learning.
You haven't mastered it all immediately.
Yeah, no. How about that?
It is a real honor and pleasure to be here. I have never known a lot about the Rotary, but since we've known a few people have learned and I'm sort of taking over and realizing what you're doing and who you are. And so when Chris asked me to give a talk on the Transcendental Meditation technique, it was like, well, people in Rotary, they're already service oriented, they're already dedicated to helping people. They've already got such a wonderful way of seeing the world and interacting in the world and creating community. You know, could TM make a difference? Could TM be helpful for people at the Rotary Club? And so I wanted to think in terms of what might be ways that could happen. And part of that would be that, anyway, I wanted to give you a brief interview of what the TM technique is and how it works, and more like kind of why it might be of use, because Rotary supports so many programs. And all these programs seem to be really things to help the community be better. But there's so many problems. You know, you've got a food bank, well, people are hungry today, you feed them. Well, they're hungry tomorrow, you feed them again, they're hungry tomorrow. How do we prevent the problem? How do we get to the source of the problem and find ways to help accomplish more from the base by preventing? Same with health. You know, people are sicker and sicker and sicker. I mean, children often now over 50–55% have chronic illness. That never happened when we were little. Maybe a few kids were sick here and there a couple days a week, but of the year, but that was, you know, not chronic. And so what can we do to start preventing the problem to begin with, rather than keep trying to deal with the solution, at cleaning it up, and how to, find ways. It's not like who's gonna pay for it. It's like, well, maybe we don't have to pay for so much if we can stop the problem. And TM can be very helpful in that, because if you think about it, how can we prevent something? What do we need to be people who can, in a society or in a community, how can we better at finding solutions? Well, first of all, we have to be healthy and energetic and have vitality. You know, if you've ever been on a committee and 3 people are sick, well, go to the meeting. Or if you want to do something, yeah, but you know, you've got this issue and it's flaring up. You can't do what you'd like to do. And so we have to have our health be strong and the same with the people we try to help. if people are constantly getting sick, they're gonna constantly medical care. And if they keep getting sicker, we'll have to give them more medical care. And if they get sicker, we have to give them more medical care. So is there any way we can prevent those to start with? And so the other thing to be, find solutions is we have to be more creative. Where do you get creativity? Anybody found a place online we can buy some more creativity? Tools to help you be creative, but not the creativity itself. And so what we need to do is then increase the capacity to be inventive, to be intelligent, to intelligently use what's possible, new ways to apply what's out there. And also, in order to be able to solve problems and prevent problems, we have to be able to decrease stress levels. Because when you've worked hard all day, your family needs you, your weather's just frozen and you've got to go deal with the yard too. You better not have anybody ask you one more thing to do. Because you can only give what you've got. And when you're burned out and overwhelmed, you can't give anymore. So if you want to be, people, want to be helping the community, they want to help beyond their family, they want to be even help their family members. And sometimes you just can't because you're kind of all worked up or overwhelmed by something. So in order to solve these problems and prevent the problems, then this is where TM can help. Because what it does is it changes us from within. And it does it in a very simple and a very natural and a very easy and a very effortless way. So just briefly, I'll tell you what the TM technique is. Some people may know lots about it. Some people may never have heard about it before. But it is a form of meditation that's been available in this country since, the late 50s, late 60s, when it first got brought to the West. And it's a mental technique that you practice quietly, internally, so sitting comfortably with your eyes closed for about 20 minutes twice a day. And it's something that doesn't revolve any belief. It's not a mental technique. I mean, it's a mental technique, but it's not a philosophy. It's not a lifestyle. It's not something you have to change what you're thinking about things. It just is a tool. It's a technique. And it's been taught to over 10 million people since the 1950s all over the world. So it's taught to any culture, any religion, any economic background, any educational background. Children 10 years old can do it. It's so easy. And so it's applicable to anybody without people having to change what they otherwise are practicing. And the other thing is that there have been lots of meditation practices in different religions, but there was never a technique that was available that wasn't religious. But then it's also an inner practice. It's an inner subjective experience. And how do we know that your experience is the same as mine, the same as yours, are different? And so the founder of the TM technique, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he himself had a degree in physics. And so he encouraged doctors and researchers to look at what happens when somebody meditates. Is it consistent? If one person has the experience, would anybody else have it? And nobody knew that. Nobody had ever done research on TM or any kind of meditation. So we encouraged and worked with many different researchers from all fields of science. And so there became a huge body of research showing these benefits come from the TM technique because it's taught in a systematic scientific way. You do this, you do this, you do this. It's not guesswork, sit and, have a good time and just be quiet. There's steps you do so that we know you'll have the experiences. And then they found the experiences were consistent. If it lowered blood pressure, high blood pressure in one person, it would have some effect on other people with high blood pressure. And so it was able to be measured scientifically also because anybody who teaches transcendental meditation goes through a very rigorous training program, and they all teach the same thing the same way. It's not left to chance that you know, I share something and then you share it with someone and they share it to someone, and, you know, it's not quite the same. And so it's taught the same way. And those who've been trained in are the ones who are going to teach it, so it doesn't get lost. So these benefits happen because it's a technique we use our mind for. Our mind settles down to a level of very deep rest. But it's not sleep. But you're also alert. There's awareness. And it's not like asleep, but you're not engaged in the world. You're not processing, you're not thinking, you're not analyzing, you're not comparing, you're not observing. You're simply using this sound that allows your mind to settle and your body settle. And when your body gets very settled, then it can heal and repair and rejuvenate itself. You know, often the medical doctors will say, you know, take the rest and go to bed. It's the go to bed and rest part that's the most important, because our bodies do know how to heal themselves. But when they get tired and overwhelmed and exhausted, then they can't do that. So that's why we need more rest. And this is a unique kind of rest that shows up in different brainwave patterns and other changes that take place. And so as the mind settles down, the mental stresses can be dissolved and the rested state, old stresses go. And you don't have to analyze it. You don't have to figure out which ones to get rid of. They just go. And it's stress in our minds that keeps us from thinking clearly, from remembering, from coming up with new ideas, from being thinking, from being focused. You know, have you ever had a time where you're trying to work on something and you're stuck? It's just not going anywhere. You know, how do you get unstuck? Well, this is a way to get you unstuck, because it changes the brainwave patterns to the mode where it does come up with more ideas. It's integrating in the background with your intellect, not trying to make it happen bit by bit, point by point. So research shows then that people can think more clearly, focus better. And it's used in so many, like, schools, children in inner city schools, private top schools, and their grades go up. They study less, it's much easier, and they feel better, and they get better grades. So it's very effective at any age level. And especially top businesses, a lot of top businesses pay for the employees to learn, because how's the company gonna do better? You gotta stay on top of the game. And you have to be creative and adaptable and flexible, and all those mental qualities take place automatically with this mental release and rest that you get during TM. But then as the mind settles down, so does the body. And so our body also gets deep rest. And again, sleep at night helps, but it's not enough. If it were, we'd be happy and healthy and fulfilled. But not everybody's quite all of that all the time. So this extra rest from the meditation helps the body function better, repair old things. And often people who've had chronic illness or chronic, issues for a long time, it fades away. People are able sometimes lower their medication and don't need it if their blood pressure comes down. And so it's very effective in helping health. And if you're already healthy, fine, you'll have more energy. Because that restfulness of the body is what you need to have that vitality. And so often people, you work hard all day, you've been busy, you've done your energy, and you come home. And who gets your exhaustion? Your family, your personal life. It's like, but if you can meditate after your work day, or even in the afternoon before the end of the day, you've got vitality and energy and all that. You can give more to your family and your friends. So it really helps you be able to contribute more on a bigger range, bigger territory of influence. Really. And the other thing is that we have our emotions. When you're tired and you're overwhelmed and you're feeling a bit cranky, other people say, you don't notice it, but they'll notice you're a little cranky or short-tempered or withdrawn and gritting your teeth. You're not giving much, and you're not happy either. But what TM can do is erase, dissolve, change old habits, old patterns of thinking. I'm not good enough at that. I better not try that. I'm not good enough. I better not try that. Or that kind of person is always going to do this. That kind of person is always that way. That kind of, we get these little patterns going. But then they hinder our ability to see a situation for what it is right now and come up with a solution right now, spontaneously. Who don't get absorbed in everyone else's dramas. That's what saves you. Is if other people start getting all worked up and you have a way to stay calm and settled spontaneously, not through mental willpower, but just spontaneously, that interaction is going to go a lot smoother. And so it really helps to maintain that equanimity despite the chaos around you. You probably all noticed there's a lot more chaos around us these days, right? How do we keep our head above water? And so it's a way to do that. But you probably also tried yourself to think, be better at something. Like, I want to be more patient. You know, I just don't want to be jumping on my kids. I just want to be more patient. Or I want to be more understanding. And you're all set to do that. And you're all, aware that you're going to just be better at that. And then somebody comes in and says one thing and your buttons are pushed and off you go. Intellect isn't enough to change our behavior. Because the emotions always trump the intellect, right? You can want to behave one way, but it's not always easy to do it. So when we can culture our physiology and our emotions to be more calm and more settled, and to eradicate old patterns of negative thinking, and it just happens spontaneously. It's not like, I got to remember to do that. I got to remember to do that. It just happens. So the relationships get smoother and easier too. And so with things like what you're doing with Rotary, I'm sure you're supporting other groups or yourself or volunteering at groups where maybe the people have a lot of emotional needs or physical needs. And so when you have more to give them, not, just I should dutifully go do this. It's like, it's more smooth, it's more flowing, it's more enjoyable, and it's more beneficial, more fun. It works better. So those are the ideas that TM can benefit every area of our life so that we can give more ourselves. But when we can come up then with better solutions because we're more creative or have a new way of thinking how we could do something, then all these other groups that we want to help, if that can be applied in many different ways, we could start eradicating some of the problems. Because, things seem to be getting worse and worse. So we have to change the real level from which we're functioning. So we have to go to the root cause to change these problems and not just keep putting bandages on them all the time. Now, there's a side benefit with TM in the long run, which most people aren't aware of. And that is that we're in the environment, we're in the community, we're in our family, we're in groups. But part of who we are is what we call consciousness, an inner aspect. Think of the source of your own thoughts, the source of your own creativity, the inner essence of you that has been you when you were 2, and 12, and 22, and 92. Your sense of your inner self, your inner being. Some people call it soul, but that's a little tricky word because it's usually associated with a particular religious aspect. But that's a word that might sort of fit. And so we're all in the same universe. We're all part of it. And there's a lot of intelligence and creativity running this world. So our consciousnesses connect to that intelligence and creativity. And when we connect to that, we're connecting to that which is also in everybody else. So when you meditate and calm yourself and get more settled and feeling better, that actually radiates out to other people and they don't even know it's happening. And this was it was talked about in the ancient times, but it was demonstrated in the early 1970s when tens of thousands of people were learning TM in those days. It was new and publicized, you know, on TV shows and stuff. And so they found in this one town, the police reported that the crime rates had suddenly fallen. And they said, we don't know why, but you know, we're happy to report crime rates are down this year. And so the TM teachers looked into what was going on, and they found that as soon as 1% of the people in that town had learned TM, that's when the crime rate started to fall. But, oh, well, so they looked at pure chance, sure, probably. So they looked at 3 other nearby towns, again, where 1%, as soon as 1% had learned TM, their crime rate started to fall. Okay, well, let's a little further out. They went to other cities and towns around the US, same thing. As soon as 1% had learned TM, the crime rate fell. And we were not teaching the criminal. It was a field effect. Scientists say everything is a field effect now, not even atoms. We go to the deepest level of nature's functioning. It's this field of infinite intelligence and creativity that's running the show and that's connecting us. And so when you get more orderly and connect to that, you enliven that in the field, and more people will feel it, and more people will be connected with it. And there's even other advanced techniques of TM, and it only takes the square root of 1%. And we see traffic accidents go down, traffic fatalities go down, hospital admissions go down, the economy improves, heads of state talk better to each other. In war-torn areas, they even found that there was fewer bombings and fewer casualties, and heads of state talk better. So this, what we're connecting with in our meditation is not just our mind and our body and our emotions, but a deeper level of who we are. And that has a very powerful effect in the whole community. Another thing you may not know is that in the mid 80s, 1% of the people in Vermont had learned TM. And they also had it available to the prison program. Anybody in the prison program can learn TM. And things settled down, things got easier. But these programs then require, I mean, you can have so many donations to, you know, set up a demonstration project, and after that, then the community has to decide to support that or not. And those were the lock them up and throw it away key days, so nothing happened. But there are solutions at deeper level, whether it's directly by involving certain populations with this knowledge, or just on our own self. So when you practice the TM technique, you're not only improving your own life, but you're changing the environment around you. You're doing more than what the police can do. Police can't stop crime. I mean, they can stop crime, but they can't prevent crime. If they're fast enough, they can stop crime, but usually they can't. They can usually just clean up the mess afterwards. So it's just one segment of how this could be useful. Now, I'm running out of time, right? How much more time have I got?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, one thing,
Question time,
okay. Including question or then?
including question.
Okay. Well, I have to do one quick part of this, because Chris had asked me what I should talk about on TM, and he said, mindfulness and TM like that. Well, I don't know a lot about mindfulness practices, but I know some. And I was going to show a few slides, but I'll just go through this fast. Mindfulness means different things. It means being aware of, being mindful of what you're doing, paying attention, having awareness on what's happening, or putting your attention on something internal, how you're feeling, how you're breathing, how you're doing. But mindfulness has become a practice where you practice being mindful. And that's where some of the mindfulness meditations have come, as you're practicing being mindful, so that when you're back in activity, you spontaneously would act that way. Because again, you practice juggling, you're better at juggling. You know, if you practice things in your mind, then you can do that more outside because you're changing your brain cell. With the TM technique, what we find is that we're not changing so much just all the brain cells, you know, to have more of white matter in a certain area, but we're actually setting up a mode of thinking that's coherent and orderly. And that mode of thinking is related to all these benefits I talked to you about. But it's different than just creating more white blood cells about being compassionate or being kind or being more energetic, or making these muscles work better, or, this part of the brain be better at memory. But it creates this default network mode type of functioning. Then back in activity, because the stresses have also been released, and you're thinking more broader, you actually are more mindful spontaneously. So it's not that you're practicing in a meditation to be mindful, or just thinking you should, and then you go back to activity and, oh, you forgot to do it. Well, I have to remember to be more mindful of this. Okay, you go back to do your activity, pretty soon you're absorbed in it, right? You forget about that. And so that's two different states going back and forth. With the TM technique, that restful alertness state you create while you're meditating over time stays with you longer and longer and longer. So you always have that mode of functioning, even when you're back in activity. And that's why you're spontaneously more aware of everything you're doing. Like you're witnessing what you're doing while you're doing it. And if you're witnessing it, you have more choice about choosing what you're going to do. So that becomes a mode of functioning, not a practice to develop. So that's, I think, the difference I've seen. And then there's a lot of research actually showing that compared to the TM technique, the brainwave patterns are very different from TM and all other forms of meditation. That the results of studying like PTSD, there are results from mindfulness-based programs, but they're about half of what they are from the TM program. So both can create some restfulness and some changes, but TM seems to be about 2 to 8 times more effective than whatever else is being studied as far as changes. So something different's going on, and they're sort of looking at different ways. So I think any questions on this?
Go ahead.
So, a lot of addiction recovery programs use meditation. Do you know if it's transcendental meditation that they use?
The ones that use the transcendental meditation find it very effective, exceptionally. And the studies have usually shown that TM, again, it's 2 to 8 times more effective because it changes the body from within.
Yeah.
The others can produce a state of restfulness in the moment. Or if they're a focused meditation, they create more stress actually. But it's right, it's more effective. And so the others do something or they won't be used. But this is much more effective. And the other thing is the effects are more long lasting. You can do a meditation with a group of people who are kind of agitated, they'll settle down. Then you can teach them something else you're, maybe trying to present to them. But with TM, you settle, but then you're eradicating that old stress. It's been used in prison programs a lot. It eradicates the stress, so it's not there to try to be managed outside of the meditation time. You're eliminating it rather than managing it.
Well, I was gonna say, excuse me, one of the things you didn't mention is that if you take the TM program, they do follow-ups. So after you do the training, you can go and do follow-ups afterwards, and that's part of the original investment of time and money. And you get to do check-ins, I believe they're called.
Right.
And I've done a bunch. And that's something you didn't mention. I was just thinking how important that was for me, because I kept the connection to the teacher.
Right, we have a lifetime follow-up program so that any TM teacher who's trained can help you. If you move out of state or go to Florida for the winter, you can, learn from them too.
And what does the training look like? Like, where is it? How long is it? How
Okay.
much does it cost?
Okay, so wait, in question. Yeah. So to learn basically takes we start with a free introductory talk. Takes about an hour, so you can learn more about it. You can also go to the website tm.org and read more about it and look at the research and see the benefits. The course takes 4 consecutive days, about 2 hours each day. And the very first day is done in person with the teacher, and that's when you actually learn how to meditate. You start that very first day. The following 3 days would be a small group with the teacher, and those can be the in-person at our center. We're in Williston, right on Mountain View Road, right on Mountain View Road. Or you can do it by a Zoom in an app. There's a special app that's interactive, plus individual meetings with the teacher too. And then there's ongoing follow-up for the rest of your life, but especially the first few months, which is optional. You don't have to be part of an organization, but you can continue with more support. Any other? You had a question?
Oh, I just was curious, if there's like a minimum age. they'll
Children 10 years
participate.
old can learn this, but for children under 10, we have a special technique where they keep their eyes open, and walk around, because they don't, it's not good for their physiology to be sitting down. And none of them focus, but if, you know, and I taught it in school, where even not preschool. But normally,
Yeah.
old enough to keep a secret.
That's what I was wondering, because, you know, just the stress levels that so many young people are experiencing.
Oh, yeah, it just, I taught in school and these kids were just so much happier. In every inner city school, every international, there's so many schools that use it. I gotta go ready. The kids do so much better because their stress are gone. And that's what this ties them in knots, and it's just amazing. There's a lot of research. David Lynch Foundation has funded a lot of those. You can go to David Lynch Foundation, and read about their stage. Yeah, and I have a few brochures here if you want. A card, just tm.org, and if you want, we can help. No.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for you being here. Our club makes a contribution to the Williston Central School Mentoring Program, near and dear to me, and several members. And I should tell the crowd that before TM, I used to tell bad jokes. It's helped in that regard.
You might need to have a check-in.
All right.
It's great.
Oh, Janet, I forgot to ask you, would you draw a number out of here, please, a ticket, and read the last three numbers that we discussed earlier?
276. 276.
That might be me. 7-7.
Oh, off by one. Well, maybe the other one they won't own up if you get it.
Is it the truth? Yes.
Do that. Greg, did you buy them all? Did you buy them all?
It is the truth.
That's embarrassing.
Payment for all the bad jokes, right?
Well, you were talking.
Thank you so much for being here today, Janet. That was fascinating, and yeah, I'm definitely curious to talk more and learn how to get TM in more of the community schools. That sounds amazing. With that, I'm gonna ask Sally to come up and do an inspiration.
Mindfulness, take some time for yourself. Wow.
So, today I'm gonna read you a poem. But before I read you the poem, I'll tell you about the author. I have always been impressed and inspired by the resilience and the strength and determination to overcome by the African American community. Paul Lawrence Dunbar was born in Dayton, Ohio in 1872 to formerly enslaved parents. He was an American poet, novelist, short story writer of the late 19th and early 20th century. He was one of the first African-American writers to establish an international reputation. He wrote the lyrics for the first African-American musical to play on Broadway in 1903, entitled In the Homie. The play toured England and the US over 4 years and was one of the more successful theatrical productions of its time. His essays and poems were published widely. He wrote much of his works in the Negro dialect. Maya Angelou titled her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, from a line in Dunbar's poetry. And she said that Dunbar's work inspired her writing ambition. Dunbar died in 1906 in Dayton, Ohio, of tuberculosis at the age of 33. So this poem is entitled Sympathy. I know what the caged bird feels, alas. When the sun is bright on the upland slopes, when the wind stirs soft through the springing grass, and the river flows like a stream of glass, when the first bird sings and the first bud opes, and the faint perfume from its chalice steals, I know what the caged bird feels. I know why the caged bird beats his wing till its blood is red on the cruel bars, for he must fly back to his perch, and cling, when he fain would be on the bough a swing. And a pain still throbs in the old scars, and they pulse again with a keener sting. I know why he beats his wing. I know why the caged bird sings, ah me, when his wing is bruised and his bosom sore, when he beats his bars and he would be free. It is not a carol of joy or glee, but a prayer that he sends from its heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the caged bird sings.
Thank you, Sally. That was beautiful.